Today we are really happy to have with us Mr. Jeffrey Say, who will talk on Singapore painting from the 1950s to the 70s. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jeffrey Say.
I think it's a valid question to ask whether painting is dying or is it already dead in, in Singapore art. I suppose that's a question maybe we can discuss briefly later. If you can take a moment to read these two quotes. The first 8 weeks of 1955, right? Okay, the visual arts, and I suppose it's referring to painting, okay, have received more attention and publicity than any other period in local history. Okay, and this kind of, I suppose, debunk, right, this, perception or that Singapore was a cultural desert back in the 50s or even the 60s, right? I mean, the scene then, judging by these quotations and judging by documentary records and archival records, is that the scene at that time was even more vibrant, I would say, than it is today. And certain key developments took place during this period. All right, firstly, we have the emergence of what we call modern art. Okay, it was really a period of innovation and experimentation. And I suppose the kind of art that developed, the modern art, was rather different from that of the West. The West tried to throw, in a sense, it was a rebellion against tradition and realism and classical art, right? But modern art here, would not hesitate to incorporate, for example, local cultures and traditions. So I suppose there's this term modern, which is a term of contention. People are still debating as to what modern actually means. Okay, I suppose in the context of my talk, right, I would take modern as to mean a kind of a point of maturity, right, in Singapore art, where the environment, the right mix of environment, stimulations and innovative efforts all come about at the same time, okay, to allow for this distinctive or distinct flowering of artistic innovation. But I suppose I would like more to lean on the first definition. And with that definition, you can include, for example, even the Nanyang art movement as something that is modern. So this kind of my definition is like the Nanyang movement refers to a group of diasporic Chinese artists schooled in both Chinese and Western pictorial tradition in search of a Southeast Asian aesthetic expression. And in 1952, there were 4 artists who made the historic trip to Bali. And, and these 4 artists were Liu Kang, Chen Zhongsui, Chen Wenxi, and Chong Su Ping. So they were searching for a kind of a visual expression that was Southeast Asian. And, after the trip, the sketches they made, the paintings that they produced when they were in Bali, all kind of crystallized, okay, as part of their aesthetic exploration of this region, right? So that trip and the works that were produced after that, okay, were regarded by scholars like Sabapati as the Nanyang movement. Now, I think all of you own this painting. Do you own it? That's right, you own one. All right, it's at the back of your $50 note. I'm including this painting not because it's one national, part of our national treasure, but I think it shows his Chong Su Ping's innovation, and it kind of encapsulates the Nanyang kind of style of painting. Now, talking about national treasures, this is another one, right? In fact, this, it's so well regarded that it gave its name to the gallery, right? Not this painting, but it's named after what was written on the board behind. Now, to you, this may seem like just an ordinary language class taking place. But as I said, what is so interesting about art is this, that you can interpret a painting. So it led some scholars and historians to say that, well, this painting is nationalistic in its intention.
Your expansion of modernity, I hope that I would ask is whether you would intend to expand that because you show these decades, and whether you can look before that. Because for me, when you talk about modernity in art in Singapore, you can stretch that all the way back to Raffles. That's a very modern piece of art?
I think there's a lot to left to do, right? And I think that's why for my own MA program, I always encourage students to kind of not to accept what they read, but to challenge them. Even as you said, the definition of modernism or modernity, right, in the context of Singapore art, which can definitely be stretched to earlier, right, even to the time of the British here.